Right. Good afternoon, everyone. Now, I'm a little bit early, but I've got loads to do, so I wanted to get this video out there and just talk about what I think is really important and what's coming out of what's happened to Tommy yet again. And yet again, this is such, I mean, we're just used to the playbook, aren't we? Something happens, the media tries to paint it in the light that Tommy's done something catastrophically evil, and it turns out once again that it was self-defense, it was an attack on Tommy, and he defended himself. Now, I think what Tommy's been very, very obviously vexed about with this is this CCTV footage. And this is what I'm worried about, this, that all of a sudden the CCTV footage will go missing. And what I did earlier on in back end of last week, a friend of mine in Scotland, Matt, if you're watching, Matt, thanks very much for all the work you did on this. Matt produced a video telling everybody how to get their hands, not get their hands, ask for a freedom of information request to make sure that the footage is available. And obviously we now know the footage is there because it's been shown to Tommy and his lawyers, but there is always the risk that the footage will all of a sudden miraculously disappear. So I think whatever pressure that we can bring to bear, whether it's writing to the Met or the British Transport Police, I'm not sure which one it is, and again we can confirm that and find out later on, but I think the key at the minute is calling on the Metropolitan Police and the British Transport Police to release the footage so that people can see for themselves exactly what happened. Because do you remember what happened to that police officer in Manchester? And this is almost a textbook repeat of this. Remember, far left activists got their hands on a very small piece of footage of that police officer stamping on that Pakistani Muslim guy's head after he'd just broken the nose of a police officer. But of course, we didn't know that. All we saw was a guy lying on the floor, and actually the policeman didn't even stamp on his head. He stamped near his head. He kicked him in the head, but he didn't stamp on it. Okay. In fact, he may not have even fully connected when he kicked him in the head. So the footage was totally misleading that we got from Manchester Airport, and it was exactly the same with the Tommy footage. So Tommy's gone into great detail, and again, when I made the video, I think it was the day it happened, I did a video and I said, look, I don't know what happened in St. Pancras station, because again, I didn't have any details. Says, but I know this. I've been around Tommy for the last 8 years. I've been with him when he's been on his own, when people have accosted him, when people have harassed him, and I've never seen him physically and violently retaliate while he's been with me or with other people. You know, I've seen other people jump in and intervene, but when Tommy is there, he does not willy-nilly attack people, and he gets a lot of grief from a lot of people, which is what he said again today and reiterated what I said a week ago. So it bears out that we were right to back Tommy and say, no, we're not having that. We don't believe what the press is saying. We don't believe what the media is saying. And again, I think we've been vindicated. But there are still issues with this. First of all, he's to go back to the police station, I think on the 3rd of September. I think I'm right on that. He's got to go back on the 3rd of September. What's going to happen then? Are they going to try and charge him with a lesser charge? I mean, I basically was looking at the sentencing for Section 18 GBH, which is GBH with intent, which as far as I know is what I think that's what he said in one of his videos. They arrested him under Section 18 for Section 18 GBH, which is GBH with intent. In other words, trying to say he meant to do it. That's what he was arrested under yesterday. The maximum sentence for that is a life sentence. I mean, this is how much pressure Tommy's been under for the past week. And that's why he was saying he'd never had, it's the worst week he's ever had in his life. Can you imagine? He was on top of the world. He'd recorded those videos, obviously the video about Advance and stuff. He'd recorded those videos in Parliament Square, really amazing looking, slick videos. He'd been out giving on his own in London, giving leaflets out for the event. And then he's traveling home, and this drunken nutcase accosts him, gets in his face, threatens him, and Tommy does what any normal man would do, is he defends himself. And the thing is, Tommy can look after himself. He can box. He knows how to use his hands. And if you attack someone that knows what to do and knows how to use their hands, you're probably going to come off a lot worse, especially if you're drunk and especially if you don't know what you're doing. So um, let's hope that's the end of it on that side of Tommy's persecution by the state. But I entitled this video "Tommy's Law" because it seems that there's one law for Roma gypsies in Leeds that want to riot and burn their area down because the police are acting against them. There's one law for Pakistani Muslims that decide to smash police officers up in Manchester Airport. And then there's another law for Tommy, who defends himself. His face is all over the media for the last week. I mean, my goodness, when you looked at the crime scene, right? There was forensic tents. There was people in white boiler suits. They were looking for fragments of blood off the escalators. My goodness, I actually thought there'd been like a chainsaw massacre in that station. Not one guy getting punched once in the face. This is the craziness. And on a serious note, when you think about the possible implications for Tommy, if that CCTV footage wasn't there, it would have been Tommy's word against a handful of witnesses, and he apparently he says he has another recording as well. So there's another recording out there as well. But if those recordings didn't exist and it was just two witnesses or two or three witnesses, and Tommy, I mean, he could have been in massive trouble. And that's why I think he's very wise. What he said, and I agree with this 100% with what he said. Everywhere he goes now, he should have security. And I had people phoning me. I had friends of mine who do security. They're close protection guys, really, really professional. Phoning me saying, "Look, get us in touch with Tommy. We'll look after him. They're patriots. They love the country." So the reality is, there'll be enough people willing to cover Tommy and look after Tommy. Even if it's a different person, 2 or 3 times a week or whatever, there will be enough people to help Tommy out and do his security. And I think really it's a sad thing to say, but anybody that is in the movement and is fairly prominent probably needs security wherever they go, because there are some very, very dangerous and weird people out there. And again, it's either you or them. If it comes to a one-on-one, it's either you or them, isn't it? And like Tommy said, he wasn't going to be the guy that was going to be face down in the gutter. And the other thing is, let's get it right. We've always said this about Tommy. If someone comes to attack Tommy, it's not going to be a Muslim guy with a beard down to his knees wearing white pajamas. It's going to be some guy in a Stone Island jacket with a baseball cap on. We've always said that. And that's what people have got to realize. So to me, so far, so good. Let's hope these twisted, vile Stasi, because that's what they're behaving like now, don't have some more surprises to spring on Tommy when he goes back in September. And, I mean, you would almost think that the state wants serious disorder on the streets of this country, the way they're behaving, wouldn't you? The way the police are behaving. And we make all these excuses. And look, when we've worked with the Met in the past 18 months, some of them have been absolutely excellent. Some of them have been complete and utter arseholes, to be brutally honest with you. And we've had to navigate that. And we had to for this event, I actually asked the police not to put one of the officers on that was on last time because of the problems that he caused on the last 2 events. Now, whether that happens or not is another story. But, so not every cop is a good cop and not every cop is a bad cop. But I tell you this, the way these police are behaving towards Tommy, and I'm going to go on to that now, he has now been charged, apparently, with 2 offences under the new internet harms legislation. One of them is from 2024. So that means they're actually going through his posts, looking for stuff that they can trail up from 2024. And what did he say? I mean, I don't swear on my live streams. I try to avoid it anyway. But he basically said something insulting about Hamas. So now insulting a terrorist organization, a genocidal terrorist organization that wants to impose a caliphate, not just over Israel, but over the whole world, that is basically called the Muslim Brotherhood in the Gaza Strip. It is now illegal, according to these numpties, for us to insult Hamas. Well, I'm not going to stop insulting Hamas. I'm not going to stop insulting jihadists, because that's what they deserve. They deserve to be treated with absolute contempt. And that's what Tommy's been charged with basically saying F Hamas. Well, as far as I know, I retweeted it. So come on, PSNI, come and get the cuffs on. It's ridiculous. And any police officer that can actually, with a straight face, sit and charge somebody with such a stupid, ridiculous offence, you need to hand your warrant card in. Because if I was a police officer, I was a detective constable or a constable, and I was asked to charge someone with that offence, I'd say, do you know what? I'm out. I'm done. And I would walk away from it. And to every police officer that is in this situation, you've got to make a choice. Are you with us or are you with them? It's as simple as that. You've got to make a choice. So, yes, Tommy's out. Great news. Let's hope that that this all goes in Tommy's favor. But if it doesn't, in fact, I'm going to tell you a story about what happened way back. But I'm just going to check some of the comments here, guys, because I am pushed for time. But let's have a look. Yeah. It wasn't a Muslim guy, but the Asian guy. Yes, that's right. He didn't do it. He wasn't violent. He just basically grabbed hold of the guy. Yeah. Tommy should have asylum somewhere safe until this government is gone for his sake. He's the same age as my daughter. It's heartbreaking. Pamela, he won't go. I mean, at the end of the day, he will not. He will absolutely. He will absolutely not go anywhere. He's staying for the fight. I don't believe the country is doomed. I'm going to talk about that towards the end of the video. I think we've got solutions, but we have to get extremely serious about what we're doing now. We have to, strain every single sinew, every single fiber of our being to win this battle. Guys, by the way, can you do me a big favor? If you could share this video far and wide. Let's get people hearing the truth about what's really going on in the country, because there'll be people that come to these channels for the first time, and can you imagine like getting red pills for the first time and realizing that basically the whole world as you thought it was is completely the opposite. And even now I have to pinch myself sometimes and say, is it really as corrupt as we think it is? And I think it is. And what they've got to realize, what the state have got to realize here, is the more they go at Tommy, the more they attack Tommy, the more they demonize Tommy, the more people support him. So when people see this case and realize what's actually happened, the complete opposite of what the deep state and the securocrats and the media want to happens. It's the complete opposite. And that's what they've got to realize. And here's the other thing. What I'm seeing now is lots of other people standing up. So it's like the end of Spartacus. Now, we hope that what happened in Spartacus doesn't happen to us because they all got crucified, right? But the reality is we all need to be saying, I am Spartacus. And I've said that. I said it years ago, 2018, when Tommy got locked up in May 2018. I was in London for my birthday when it happened. And we did an impromptu demo at Speaker's Corner. We had about 400 people there, just organized literally at the drop of a hat. And the whole point is we've all got to stand up and say, I am Tommy. So when they persecute him, we've got to push back. And in 2019, we did a demo. Tommy was in prison, and we did a free Tommy demo at the BBC. And I'll be honest with you, the Met Police completely stitched us up. They created the circumstances for a riot to occur. Okay. They basically put the left far too close to us. They marched the left right past where all our people were. There was, again, like all our demos, there was women and children there. A whole lot of lads got really angry. They also kettled us. They kettled us into the area. A whole lot of lads got really angry. The police lines were broken, and there was a little bit of disturbances, but we calmed it down, right? We managed to get a grip on it and calm it down. About a week later, I got, because obviously we have to liaise with the police when we do this. I got a phone call from one of the police liaison guys. He said, will you come and meet my boss? I said, well, who's your boss? And it was like I don't know, deputy chief constable or something like that. Someone very high up in the Met, one of the top brass, right? And I said, yeah, sure, come and meet him. As long as I know I'm not getting arrested, I'm not going to end up in the cells, I'll come and meet him. So I went to meet this guy, and he started off, he was very, very sort of aloof and all the rest of it. And as we talked, he realized that really it had been handled very, very badly by the police. But he said something at the end of the discussion, and this was my parting shot to him. He said, "What can we do to stop violence happening when you guys do your demos in London?" That's how worried they were then, because if you remember, that was the year when there'd been sort of more than a year, maybe 18 months. So this would have been August 2019, and basically there'd been chaos on the streets because of Tommy's imprisonment, because people were just not happy about it. And he said, "What can we do to make sure this violence doesn't happen again?" And I says, "Well, it's very simple. Stop putting Tommy in prison." And to be fair, I don't know whether it was a result of what I said. Who knows? Could have been, it might not have been. But this guy was a very senior police officer. And I said, "Tell the Home Office, tell your security people that if Tommy doesn't go to prison, there's not going to be any violence on the streets," because people get so agitated and irate when Tommy gets locked up for these ridiculously petty offences that nobody else will be going to prison for. And from 2000 and whenever he got out after that prison sentence, he didn't do a sentence again until the one that he's just done, the 7 months that he's just done in Wood Hill. And I would suggest, again, we know that there's police units monitoring these videos. I would suggest that advice that I gave to the senior police officer in London all those years ago still stands. If you don't want disorder on the streets, don't put Tommy Robinson in prison. Because I genuinely, and by the way, I'm not inciting anything, but I genuinely believe that the UK is a tinderbox at the minute. And when Tommy's out, he calms things down, believe it or not. And you wouldn't believe that if you read the mainstream media. But whenever I've been doing the police liaison talks, and me and Tommy's been sitting on the Teams call, and there's been these senior police officers there, the two sides are conciliatory, and both sides want a peaceful outcome. And we want to have a situation where our events are completely violence free and nothing bad happens. That's how the discussion goes in those meetings that me and Tommy have had with the police. And obviously when he was inside, I did those meetings on my own to a large extent. But when Tommy was on outside, we were doing those meetings together. And the whole point was, okay, how can we design this event so that there's no trouble for your officers and for our people? And we would look at things that have gone wrong in the past, and we go, okay, well, what can we do to mitigate that? So even things like when people leave, what's the best way for people to go so they can go for a meal, go to the pub without them getting a dispersal order from the police? Things like that. So we've gone into so much detail on how to keep things peaceful over the past 18 months. Why on earth would Tommy all of a sudden, out of the blue, just knock some guy out in St. Pancras Station? It makes no sense whatsoever. And, obviously it sounds like this video footage that there is there bears that out. Okay. So that's that. Now let's think about the other issue that Tommy's been facing, this idea of the internet harms legislation. If this internet harms legislation has been used to arrest people and charge people for things that they've retrospectively put on Facebook and Twitter and all the social media platforms, this is extremely sinister. And it will affect all of us. It will mean anytime they want, they can come to our doors and knock our doors. Because look, almost every day on Twitter, I put Islam is Antichrist. And there's a very good reason for that. The reason I put Islam is Antichrist is because I'm a Christian and Islam is Antichrist. It is the most anti-Christian major religion there is out there. It denies the deity of Christ. I believe it's satanically inspired. I believe it's demonically informed. I believe it's a heresy of heresies. So as a Christian, I cannot, in my conscience, I can't say anything else, that Satan is the power behind Islam, and it is no better or no worse than worshipping the devil himself. That's what I believe about Islam. It's as simple as that. And if that offends people, I'm sorry about that. But that's my theological position. And I think that would be the historical theological position of the church until these pink-haired lesbian vicars took up the positions in the pulpits. And that'll probably offend a lot of people as well. So if now making videos that offends people is a criminal offense, we have a serious issue in this country. And let's remember, the internet harms legislation was designed by the Conservative government. Nadine Dorries, that little flowery woman, Nadine Dorries, she was the person that basically designed that legislation. Yardi, thanks very much, Englishman. And Britain, no ish about me. Oh dear. Okay. Yep. So we've got to start. We've got to realize the battle that we're in, and this is a key time in our movement. And I think there's a few things that I want to say. I'm going to have to knock it on the head very soon, but there's a few things I want to say, and then I'm going to get into the chats and go through some of the chats that you guys have dropped in there. But I think the first thing is there needs to be genuine unity. Now, Tommy has endorsed Advance UK, and Ben has welcomed that endorsement, and Tommy has joined Advance UK and encouraged everybody else to do the same. And again, I would encourage that. Now, there's going to be a whole lot of to and fro, and there's going to be a lot of people in reform, as Tommy said on his video, a whole lot of people on reform getting very upset about that. There's going to be a whole lot of people in UKIP getting upset, and probably some of the other parties as well. However, this is where I think the truth of the matter is everybody needs to swallow their pride and get rid of their party loyalties, because at the end of the day, this is the thing. I've been called disloyal for leaving UKIP and joining Advance. Well, there's some very good reasons why I did that. I'm not going to go into all the details on it. I'll keep some of the reasons why I left UKIP to myself, and I'm not going to discuss them. But needless to say that I've got my reasons for leaving. That it wasn't just about Advance. But the reality is UKIP, the SDP, Heritage Party, none of them are going to win the next general election. Britain First, they're not going to win the next general election. So if you're a member of those parties, what I would suggest is you resign your membership from any of those parties and join Advance, because Advance is getting the momentum. And if it gets the momentum that I believe it is going to get, then we have a chance. Believe this or believe this not. I mean, you might think I'm crazy, but we have a chance of winning the next general election. I'm going to give you an example. When we did the UKIP thing in 2018, and Tommy got involved, and the football lads got involved, and the there was just a massive turning to UKIP on social media and at demos, and everybody had UKIP flags. It was great. And then, of course, we know what happened. The whole thing was sunk by, deep staters within UKIP, and also Nigel Farage made his disgusting comments about a demo we were doing, calling us all knuckle-dragging thugs and so on and so forth. Then Gerard Batten was pushed out as leader. Once Gerard Batten was pushed out, we all lost interest and we walked away from it. And that was basically that. That was 2018. Now, why am I talking about that? That won't happen with Advance, because Advance is a brand new party, and it has been structured so that can't happen. So that you can't have a position where bad people take over, bad actors take over the party. It is going to be extremely democratic, extremely accountable. You'll be able to fire the leader if he goes wrong. The current leader, Ben Habib, has signed the pledge, so you know what the ideology of the party is. It's basically exactly the same ideology as the pledge, which can be summed up in freedom, equality, democracy, and sovereignty. And all those things are what we need to fight for, because we can talk about all the problems that the country's facing, but at the end of the day, those are the principles that we have to adhere to achieve what we need to achieve. If we want to deport jihadists from our country, we need to be able to do that in a framework that we're doing it because they threaten freedom, they threaten equality, and they threaten democracy. If that makes sense, because they're the cause of what makes Britain the country that it is, coming out of the Christian heritage that Britain has. That's where we get freedom of speech from. That's where we get equality, all men being made equal in the sight of God. Our democracy is a very Christian sort of democracy. If you ever go into the House of Parliament, it's full of massive paintings of scenes from the Bible. Bishops still sit in the House of Lords. So we've got to protect all those institutions. But the problem is the institutions have been totally taken over. So you need a party that's able to get in there, tear everything apart, and put it back together again. And unfortunately, there's no other party there that is going to be able to do that other than Advance. And believe you me, Advance is getting massive support. I know there's going to be there's imminent announcements of other things that's going to happen in Advance that are going to make it even more attractive. But Tommy's backed it. I've backed it, and I'm just a lowly member. I'm not on the sort of leadership team of Advance. I am just a member of the party who is doing as much as I can to promote the party because I believe in it. I genuinely believe in it. And I must say, whenever I was in UKIP, I was always kind of half-hearted because I just knew it wasn't going to be sufficiently robust to win the next general election. But I believe Advance will be, even though it's a new party. Right, let's have a look at some of these comments. I think TR needs a body cam. I think he just needs bodyguards. That's the other thing. Tommy needs security all the time. They're not going to have the profile. They're not going to have the membership. They're not going to have the finances. They don't have the leadership. I can give you some more reasons if you want, but I think those will probably do. Tommy's got an excellent control of his emotions in provocation by notes. Absolutely has. He's had so much of this. Support Tommy and join Advance UK. Absolutely right. Well, that's what he's been charged with. I mean, swearing about Hamas, apparently. That's what he said in his video. Advance UK is a 10-year membership. Exactly. I mean, that is so ridiculously cheap. Okay, 2CT, I'll be off by 4:30 anyway. This was just a really quick update on Tommy, and just to say that he needs our backing and we need to be pushing for that footage to be released, okay? Paul C, English, not British. Well, yes, I'm English, and absolutely. Jenny, afternoon, Jenny. Labour must be one of the most corrupt governments in the world, never mind the West. Yep, I would agree with that. Police work with the mainstream media. Absolutely, they do. Police can't be trusted. I would agree. The police can't be trusted. I never thought I'd hear myself say that. I used to be a supporter of the police. Obviously, when I was in the military in Northern Ireland in the 80s, our job was to protect the police from IRA terrorists. And, I always had a great respect for them. Unfortunately, I've lost a lot of that because of what I've seen. I must say, English coppers are never the same caliber as Northern Irish cops because they weren't dealing with the same sort of situations that people in Northern Ireland were dealing with. Okay. Hello there, AMH. Tommy has gone kept in cotton wool until September the 13th. Well, yeah, Tommy needs to be protected. I think that's what you're saying. Tommy needs to be protected. English and British, yeah. Tommy didn't belong in prison, absolutely. He shouldn't ever have been in prison. That's an interesting one, Paul. They're all constables. Their internal rank means nothing. Okay. I think 2C will say same. There is CCTV that police have, and Tommy saw it. Yeah, I mean, we need to see that footage released. I'm sure it will be released at some point. But the other thing is about the charge that they hit Tommy with. I'm just watching the time here. The other thing about the charge they hit Tommy with, it was, I'm not sure if I said this on this video already, the GBH, Section 18 GBH, potentially a life sentence in prison for that. That's what they were trying to do him for. It's absolutely disgusting. I think Tommy has some phone footage of what went on before, what we have all seen. I think he's waiting for them to close the case or not, putting the ball in their court to release CCTV footage. Yeah, I think that seems to be the case, doesn't it, Charlie? Again, I haven't spoke to him, so I'm not sure. The best thing that happened is that Tommy has joined Ben Habib's Advanced UK Party. I agree. I absolutely agree. That is a groundbreaking thing that Tommy has basically joined Advanced UK, and it's going to be, it really is going to be, it's a game changer. And I think there's going to be other announcements that make that party even deeper, because, what we need is a party that has a lot of depth and a lot of strength and has people that are very prominent from lots of different walks of lives. And we need a party, because reform isn't the answer. The Tory party, there's nothing you can do with the Tory party. The Tory party can't be saved. And what needs to happen is anyone that's good in the Tory party needs to jump ship and join Advance. I'm talking about the Suella Bravemans, Liz Trusses, people like that. Anyone that's good in reform needs to jump ship and join Advance. And Rupert and his lot need to join Advance. Job done. That's all we need. If that all happens, then we win the next election. It's as simple as that. And obviously the UKIP as well get nicking those across. There's there's no problem. It will keep happening to Tommy unless Advance or UKIP can lead. Yes, it would. I agree, Rosa. It would absolutely happen under Advance. Sorry, under Reform. It's not going to happen under Advance, not in a million years, but it would happen under Reform. I agree with whoever said there's not a political off ramp for this situation. Well, we have to try because, to be honest with you, I'll be brutally honest with you. I would doubt. I would doubt how many people in this country would be willing or able to fight in any conflict. And that's not insulting people. If you've never been in the military, if you've never handled a firearm, how the heck are you meant to fight in some sort of conflict or a war? Most people, sadly, most people haven't even had a punch up like Tommy had last week in the street. That's just how soft our nation has got, and we need to toughen up. We need to be a lot more resilient. The last thing I think our nation needs is a civil war. It'd be a disaster. But we also have to get rid of the illegal migrants. We have to get rid of the jihadists. We have to get rid of religious extremists. They all have to go because we can't have that in our country. We can't have people in our country that want to destroy it. They all have to go. It's simple as that. Okay. Do you know Tommy was on his own, Yvonne? That's the problem. Yes, Linda, I just can't believe someone didn't have a phone out, only the lefties. Tommy wasn't with anybody. That's the problem. Yeah, they certainly, it looks like they're trying to fit him up for sure. There would be no violence if yeah, absolutely. There'd be no, if that's absolutely right. If Rentomob didn't turn up, there would be no violence. Happens to that when Tommy was put in prison in 2018-19, there was a lot of anger on the streets and people were going crazy. But again, things have moved on from that, and we've been very clear that we don't want any violence since then. The only way Tommy will be free is if we join Advance or UKIP are also. Yes, exactly. I mean, the reality is there has to be a coming together of UKIP and Advance. There's no doubt about that. But it would mean UKIP having to fold because it's the only way that can work. Okay. Yep, I think we're talking about Islam there. Absolutely. Islam hates Jews, Christians, Hindi, anyone who is not of their cult. In self-defense, but denying it is just dumb. I mean, Tommy's been very honest. He did act in self-defense. I stand with you, Richard. I believe the same as you and have done for a long time. Angela, that's fantastic. I mean, this is the situation. We know what's going on. We know what's happening, and now's the time to stand up. It's as simple as that. If you don't stand up now, you're never going to stand up. 5 minutes and I'm out here, guys. So I'm going to get through some more of these chats. Hebrew definition of locus in Revelation, Strong's Concordance, Arab Muslim invaders all over the world. I'll look that up. I used to have a Strong's Concordance. I've still got one on one of my mobile devices, so I'll have a look for that. Revelation chapter 9. Yep, I'll look for that. Thanks for that, Kingfisher. Richard, apparently someone is trying to raise funds for Islam censoring characters. Yes, I've seen that. I would say, listen, I mean, the problem is they're trying to build mosques everywhere, and there's a friend of mine in England, Gavin Bobby. He was called the Mosque Buster. He used to take legal cases, and we need people in Northern Ireland to do the same. That will basically use the law to stop them building these synagogues of Satan. Okay, the Archbishop of Canterbury is trans. I'm not sure about that, but anybody who wishes death upon another is not of God. I totally agree, Charlie. Absolutely. It is antichrist. It teaches everything that is against the teaching of God. It teaches murder and oppression. Absolutely. This is the thing. If anybody has looked at the very basic doctrines of Islam, looked through the Quran, looked at their teaching on jihad, looked at their teaching about women, looked at the teaching about non-Muslims, it is a completely supremacist death cult. It's as simple as that. That's what it is. Right, guys, I'm out of here in 2 minutes because I've got to dash and do something. So hi, Richard and fellow supporters. Love from Northern Ireland. Well, Martin, Friday, we're down at the Marine Corps Hotel in Bangor every Friday at 7 o'clock. If you want to come down and say hello, please do. It'd be great to see you. And anyone else in the chat that's from Northern Ireland, come down on Friday, because we need to up the ante with these meetings, and we need to build a network. Jenny, good stuff, Jenny. I'm joining Advance. If I could join again, I would, just to get the numbers up. Another Jenny, I've joined Advance and Restore. Absolutely. Too big to rig. We need those two things coming together. I think we need Restore. We need UKIP on board. We need Restore on board. We need a rump of Reform on board. We need some of the good Tories like Suella Braverman, people like that to come on board. And if we do that, we've got a chance. They could. I genuinely believe that Advance could win a landslide victory. 100%. I do believe they could do that. I think you've got to, we've got to believe in people. When I look at Ben and I see the way he communicates, he was on with that young lad, Charlie Downs, yesterday, and Charlie said something a bit derogatory, I thought, about Tommy. And Ben dealt with it in such a gracious way and such an intelligent way that I wouldn't have dealt with it like that. I'd have been growling, you know what I mean? But that's the difference. He's got that polish that he's more like a diamond than a rough piece of. I'm a rough piece of coal, and Ben's a bit of a diamond. Do you know what I mean? Tommy is a true great of Great Britain. I agree. Tommy has Tommy has a lot of Churchill about him, actually, believe it or not. There's some very, very similar character traits there for sure. But Tommy needs a bodyguard with him all the time. He needs somebody with him. If only Reform look like they can topple Labour in 2029, they've got to get my vote, though. I prefer Advance removing Labour. Look, let's see what happens. 2029, the way things are going, look at what's happened in the last 24 hours. Let's have a look at what's happened since Saturday. So the announcement about Tommy coming on board with Advance comes out on Saturday, right? Tommy comes back to England yesterday. He's arrested and potentially charged with GBH. He's out this morning and everything is back on track. I mean, that's how fluid everything is. So that's just so a lot can change. And I think there's probably a lot of skeletons in the closet about Reform. There'll be a lot of deep, dark secrets there about that leadership, and they will come out. And when they do come out, that'll be the end of Reform. And that's why, to me, Advance is the only show in town. Now, I think the deep state will probably try and prop Reform up and make Reform appear like they're an insurgent party, but they are not. Look at the people they've brought in. Jake Berry, that weird prison governor that they had talking yesterday. I mean, man, I don't know whether she was Arthur or Martha. I mean, that was just a weird interview that was on yesterday. But anyway, okay. I joined the first day. Ben announced it. I like Nick. Yes, I like Nick Tenconi too. But I think they're just not going to do what needs to be done, unfortunately, and that's why you've got to go with your gut. Better with Nick than Nigel, I'd agree. Yeah, anyone's better than Nigel. Why can't they all blend into Advance? Yes, that's what should happen. I mean, get Nick into Advance. Give him a position where he can do what he does, do his activism, but under the covering and the mass numbers that Advance is going to get. I mean, that would be the perfect idea. It's up to UKIP to decide what they want to do, to be honest with you. Yeah, I know Advance aren't registered yet, but I mean, they will be once Ben made that very clear. Once they hit 30,000, he's going to register, and he's done that for a specific reason, because that's what Reform were at when they stood for the general election. Can Tommy ask for the footage? Yes, that's what I've said. Under an FOI, I'm sure there's a way that he can do it through his lawyers where they can demand that footage. So I'm sure if his lawyers are worth the salt, they will be basically doing that and getting the hands on that footage. Friday night, 7 p.m. to Clacton Town Hall. Bring your family fights. Great. It's great to see all these demos going. Guys, I'm going to go because I've got to go. So I'll see you all soon. Great news that Tommy's out. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep protesting on the streets. Keep fighting and never, ever surrender. I'll see you all soon.